Superman. Tim. We're talking about Superman 2025, the most Marvel DC movie you'll probably ever see. I went into this movie actually pretty excited. I was watching the trailers and I was like, this kind of looks like a fresh take on kind of an old, worn out genre, in my opinion. But after watching the movie, I have mixed feelings. So we'll get into it. I don't think it's any secret that the superhero genre, superhero movies, has been on the struggle lately. I think ever since Endgame, people have kind of been burned out with the whole genre in general, but also just kind of confusion from the studios about like what kind of superheroes they're making. I think, audiences have been kind of less than interested in that whole genre for a little while now. But I also think it's in part due to kind of the dark tone that a lot of modern superhero movies have taken. And I think they're taking that tone partly as a reflection of just kind of how people are feeling these days. That's more of a cynical take. But you think about the more recent movies. So like even like all of the Snyder movies where Superman, who's supposed to be this kind of emblem of optimism and hope, is really like the colors are muted. His superhero suit is like really dark. Even like in one of the movies, he's wearing a black superhero suit, which is, I don't know. It's interesting to see that take on Superman. And I'll say it's not even worth comparing Zack Snyder's Superman to the modern Superman because they're just so different. And it's like comparing apples to oranges in very real sense. But then you take other movies like The Batman or even like Christopher Nolan's Batman, where it was this kind of like dark, grungy take on what was supposed to be kind of a silly character. And then you have The Batman, who's just like this really serious, like almost too like serious take on a guy who solves crimes but is wearing a bat suit. You know, it's like, is that really like the right direction that we're trying to go with these characters? So I think that has kind of contributed to audiences just being like, you know what, I'm not really interested in, the world as it is already a pretty dark place. And, I don't want to go to the movies and see all my heroes subverted and, they're also kind of dark, brooding characters. So I think that probably has contributed to it. But I don't think that's what Superman was supposed to be from the beginning. So, if you go read the original comic book, the 1938 comic book, Superman is this character that was created in this time that was incredibly dark. That was right before World War II, right before the U.S. entered World War II. And he was supposed to be like this breath of fresh air where he's got these superpowers, not crazy not invincible, but just superpowers. Like he can lift more than his weight, like whatever, 100 times more than his weight, like an ant. It says that, like an ant. Or like he can jump 100 yards, like a football field. And it uses a grasshopper to describe how a grasshopper can jump many times its own body length. Superman is kind of like that. Like it never even mentions that he can fly or has lasers or anything like that. So it's interesting. He's very much just kind of a guy, and he's a superhero. It gives his origin story, but he's not like this invincible superhero. He just has these extraordinary strengths. But then he uses those extraordinary strengths to go do good. And he's kind of this, you get the vibe that he's like this upbeat character who's out to do good for the world. And I know that Zack Snyder's Superman, he talks about, oh, this is the symbol of hope on my world or whatever. But then he's like kind of like really just like brooding the whole time. But Superman 2025 takes a completely different tone. The movie starts out 3 years after Superman has made his debut as a superhero. So you're kind of at the early part of his story, but he's already established as a character in this world. And there are already other characters also established, but they're all kind of trying to figure out how to be superheroes in this world. And I'm really glad it just skips the whole like origin story thing, because honestly, at this point, everybody knows where Superman comes from and they know his origin story. So it's like, why do we need to keep rehashing that in movies? So it just skips that, which is great. I love that. It jumps right to the point where Superman is needing to be held accountable. He's just kind of doing things in the world, and everyone's like, well, who is this guy? Like, who's he accountable to? Is he an American citizen? Is he doing things for America, or like what? Which, I mean, I feel like that's been hashed out quite a few times already in other movies. So it's like, I don't know. Do we really need to go back through that whole thing again? But whatever. This is kind of setting up the character. It's supposed to be the first movie of many movies. So I can understand why they did that, but it feels a little old at this point. But there is a difference. The tone is so different. Like, the colors of the movie are bright. The characters actually are witty and funny. And that's why I say it's like very much feels like a Marvel movie. Superman's not invincible. Like, right from the get-go, you get the sense that he can be hurt and he can actually take losses. And I think that's really good, because if you have a hero who is just so invincible that he can do whatever he wants, that just is disconnecting. Your heroes are supposed to be fallible. They're supposed to have problems that they overcome. And there's supposed to be some risk. Like, there should be danger to the hero, even though, it always turns out okay for the hero. There should be some risk. Like, he should have things that he can lose, whether it's, for Superman, it's his family, it's his friends, it's his standing in the world, especially in this movie. But also, he's risking his life. And I think that's an important characteristic for superheroes. Like, they shouldn't be invincible. They should actually have to be risking something. So I think for heroes, they should be strong and they should show strength, but they should also show that they're able to overcome all of the obstacles that the villain throws at them. And I think that's the other thing, is the villain should be stronger than the hero, especially early on in the movie, like all the way until the end, which you get that in this movie. It feels like Superman is having his butt handed to him several times, and you're like, man, how's he going to overcome this or that or whatever, which is, that's how it should be. I think the other thing that I really liked about this version of Superman is that everybody involved, at least most of the behind the scenes that I watched, it seems like they actually cared about the source material, which, you would think, oh, that's a given. But I mean, these days you have people, just actors and actresses, who just trash the source material. And it's like, that makes no sense in my brain, because you are only here because of the source material. So, like, I don't know, pay some respect to what has come before you rather than just trashing it. But it seemed like even the actor for Superman, David Corenswet, actually appreciated and kind of loved the story about Superman. Like, he understood the character and he loved the character, which I think is huge. Like, that goes a long way, especially in creating goodwill for audiences who, they love the character. So they want to see that the people who are making these movies also love the character. That being said, I do have a lot of mixed feelings about the movie. So those are kind of all the things I like about the movie. I went through different phases during the movie where I'm like, I hate this movie so much. And then, oh, I really love this movie. Like, this is the best movie I've ever seen. Which is, I don't know, that's just interesting for myself. I think, though, watching it in theaters, you kind of got that sense too, where people coming into the theater, there wasn't like an energy. You could tell people were interested in seeing the movie, but they were kind of apprehensive. Like, am I going to like this? Is this just going to be another superhero movie that I don't like? And honestly, I kind of got mixed feelings from the audience as well. You're in the theater, you can kind of feel the energy. You feel what people are laughing about, or what, how they're reacting to different things. And they didn't I didn't feel like they were super connecting with the movie. Like, they were kind of laughing at at most of the jokes, but then some things were just like totally not landing, and everyone was just kind of like, huh, what's going on here? So I thought that was interesting, like mixed feelings from the audience as well. I think it didn't help that, with this movie, you're just being thrown right in to the action. So it feels a little discombobulating when you first get into it. You're like, what's going on? Like, who are these people? What are we doing? What's going on here? But that's just, honestly, that's how James Gunn does it. And this was a James Gunn movie through and through. Like, probably a little too much James Gunn. From just his quirky style of like really close up on people's faces with like a wide angle lens, to just like bright colors and crazy things happening, and like really dry humor. That's like James Gunn through and through. And he poured his style throughout this whole movie, for better or for worse. And I think that's probably what made this like the most Marvel Superman movie that you'll probably ever see, because he really kind of, I think, pulled tons of his, ideas and stuff from when he was working on Marvel movies, and he put that into this one. And I say for better or for worse, because honestly, it kind of could be a really good thing for Marvel or for DC, because obviously Marvel's been super successful, and the Snyderverse, or whatever the DCEU is, kind of really struggled to get off of the ground again, because I think it's kind of dark and people aren't really interested in just watching dark movies anymore. So a little levity, a little humor, a little wit from the characters in this world actually goes a long way. But I think it's funny because he did pull, like, he couldn't resist the urge to put end credit scenes. Like, he put 2 of them in this movie, and I waited. I was like, "There's no way!" Like, he did that. That's kind of Marvel's thing. Like, even though they didn't invent that, that's kind of their thing now. But there's no way he's gonna do that for like a DC movie, right? And I know DC did this as well, so it's not like exclusively Marvel. But when I think of it, I'm like, that's like a Marvel thing. So like, is he gonna do that? And he did. So what do you take from that? I don't know. Maybe he's bringing a lot more of the Marvel energy to the DC universe, which, I think that could actually bring in a lot more audiences, because, it's not just for the people who are like super into the comic books or whatever, who know all of the lore. To make it successful, you have to have a pretty broad audience. And to do that, you kind of have to appeal to a broad audience. So I don't know. We'll see how that pans out in the future. And here's my final kind of gripe about the movie. I don't know how to put this, so I'll just describe it the best I can, but it felt kind of juvenile, almost like the movie was made for preteens. But I know it wasn't, because it had mature-ish content in it. Like there were 2 or 3 scenes that were kind of like, that's kind of a mature topic. I don't know if I would, want a kid watching this. But then the general tone, and I keep using that word over and over again, but I don't know how to describe it any better. Maybe it's just the jokey, kind of unserious nature of the movie that made it feel like, oh, this could actually be like a 2D animated film, and it would work perfect. Take out the language and the few mature scenes or mature topics, and this could totally be a kid's movie. That's kind of how it felt. So I think that was an interesting and kind of unexpected thing that I took away from the movie. And we'll see how that pans out in the future, because this movie is supposed to be the movie that launches a whole new DC universe. And it's going to use these characters to kind of start making more of those movies. So we'll see if it can carry that weight. And I don't know why I can't shake this feeling, but it just feels like it was made for like kids in a weird sort of way. So I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. Obviously the question is, should you watch this movie? And here's how I'll put it. If you liked Guardians of the Galaxy, then you'll like this movie. It's a James Gunn movie, and it's got very much his style and his way of making movies throughout it. But if you didn't like Guardians of the Galaxy, you're probably not going to like this movie, so don't waste your time. So my final consensus, it's a good movie. Not great. I'll probably watch it again, but I don't think it's going to be one of those movies that, goes down in history as like, the best of the Superman movies. It's totally pulling a different vibe than previous superhero movies or Superman movies. And it's supposed to be the start of a whole new DC universe. So whether or not it can carry that weight, I think time will tell. So that's the video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you guys real soon.